have the time, the freedom to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And here's the key, where I want to do it.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
This minisode is sponsored by a great program that'll save you time and money. It is Spark. You can find out more by going to spark4appraisers.com. Again, it's spark4appraisers.com. About 3.5, 4 years ago, folks, I set a goal. My goal was to become completely location independent. Now, let's start with a definition today. What does it mean to be location independent? Well, much like the title implies, it means that I am independent of a location, meaning I am free to be and work wherever I want to be and work. Now, I want to make it clear, we're talking about work here. We're talking about business here. We're talking about appraisal. We're talking about my coaching. We're talking about what I do to make money, okay? I'm still fairly tied to home because I've still got 2 boys at home. I've still got a wife that works as well, that has responsibilities where we live in Idaho. But about 4 years ago, I set the goal that I could work from anywhere in the world. That means I could be at my office like I am today. Hi, YouTube, by the way. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, The Appraiser Coach. If you've not yet found us on YouTube, I highly recommend that you do. It's kind of fun. We bounce around between cameras. I've got an overview here. I've got a side view here. And of course, we've got the straight on view. Kind of fun that you can kind of see what's going on behind the scenes of the Appraiser Coach podcast. But whether it be doing this podcast, doing my coaching, the mastermind groups, the all-star team, but really, that obviously I've been location independent with that for many, many years. But my goal that I set about 3 years ago was to become independent of the office when it comes to appraisal. And there was one thing that was holding me up. That one thing was the inspection. That one thing was that I've got clients that require that I be in the inspection if I'm going to be the one signing the report. And honestly, I kind of like the inspection. I always kind of have. That's kind of been my thing. I like going out. I enjoy where I live. It's a beautiful world that we live in. I don't have to deal with a lot of traffic in Idaho. It's gotten worse the last couple of years, but it's not bad. And I love just being out in nature, even in the winter. I don't mind getting in my car, driving to a beautiful spot and appraising, even, yes, in snowshoes or in tall boots. I don't mind that. I really don't. I spent my whole life outdoors in Idaho. It's not a big deal. But the one thing that I didn't like was the lack of freedom to be able to go, for example, on vacation. It always ended up being that I would have to come back early, right? Not early as far as planning, but I could not stay more than, 2 weeks max. Otherwise, we've got these appraisals that are lining up and not getting done, and I've got to get back and do these inspections. And honestly, folks, my whole goal in life, well, you've heard me say it before, wealth is doing what you want, with whom you want, when you want, where you want, because you want. That's my mantra. That's my goal in life, is to make sure that I have the health, that I foster the relationships, that I have enough money, but mostly that I have the time, the freedom to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And here's the key, where I want to do it. If I want to work from a beach in Belize, right? I want to be able to have that ability. Whether I do it or not is kind of, honestly, second tier. In other words, it's not so much important to me that I'm actually on a beach working. It's the ability to be able to make that decision that was important to me. And being held back by the inspection has caused me to make decisions in my appraisal business that have allowed me to work toward that. And as of this recording, I realized this today, as of this recording, this month, I finally achieved that goal of becoming location independent. I want to share with you what that means and what I've been able to do with that as hopefully an encouragement for you as well. But first, I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by a great company called Spark. My friends Kyle and Brandon over at Spark have created, folks, a technology that will save you time. There's no other way to describe it. It will save the amount of time that you either need to spend in the report or paying somebody else to do data input. You're still fully in control of what information goes into that report, but with one touch of a button, it will import it into whatever software you are using. What would you pay to save 30 minutes per report? Hello? Know your numbers, folks. Absolutely an investment in you and your business. It's spark4appraisers.com, spark4appraisers.com. Welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out with you in the podcast chair, celebrating 1 year of freedom today. As of this recording, I have finally achieved my goal a year ago to become completely location independent. And again, the definition of that is that I can work anywhere there is a high-speed internet connection. How did I do it? Well, I set up my company in such a way that I was not necessarily needed in the inspection anymore. Okay, that meant, and I'll tell you the key that got me there. For many years, we have been very picky about the clients that we were working with. So I've got trainees, I've got other appraisers. So there's really 3 steps that I took to become location independent. Again, the main thing was the inspection. That's what was holding me back. Obviously, I can do appraisals from anywhere. As long as I've got an internet connection and this computer, I can work anywhere in the world. The key is I had to be in the inspection. So step number 1 was to dwindle down my clients to the A clients, the A and B plus clients that allowed me to send out another individual to do the inspection for me. Somebody I trusted, somebody that I knew would bring back credible results, somebody that communicated with me, right? So if my trainee goes out and sees a C3 conditioned home, that he fully explains in photos, in notes, and in audio, whether it be a phone call or what have you, what it is that I'm looking at, so that I, as the analyst doing the appraisal on the desktop, will have a full and clear and positive identification of what I am appraising, right? That's credible results. That was step number 1. Basically, we got rid of a lot of what I'm going to call Y clients, right? These clients that absolutely say, Dustin, you've got to be in the inspection. That was step number 1. And we did that many years ago. When I first set the goal, I dwindled down probably about 20 to 30% of my clientele was dwindled down because they required me to be in the inspection. Step number 2 feels like the same step, but it wasn't in my mind, and here's why. Step number 2 was to get rid of the other clients that required that. What do I mean by that? Well, even though I dwindled down my client list to include mostly those individual clients that required or that allowed me to send out my trainee or another appraiser to do the inspection. And by the way, give full credit, use PAP compliance, state board compliant. Don't get in the comments and talk about how everything was fully reported, fully compliant. Okay, that was step number 1. But I still held on to 2 main clients because they gave me so much business. Those 2 main clients were FHA and VA. I was doing so much work with FHA and VA that I felt like I could not get rid of those other 2. Okay. And so, and by the way, VA does allow you to send out another appraiser probably 80% of the time. They participate in what's called the AAPP program. And so that kept me, thinking, well, I only have to be there 20% of the time. So, maybe it's not that bad. FHA, of course, requires the signing appraiser to do everything start to finish. And so I had to be in the inspection for FHA. And that kind of kept me tied to that. Step number 2, and this is what happened a year ago. Step number 2 was to finally get rid of FHA and VA. What I did was I took myself off the FHA panel. It was fairly easy to do. And what was more difficult to do, because it was so hard to get on, was to send an email to VA putting myself on a freeze status. That was a little bit freaky. It took a little bit of courage to take that step. As those of you who know or who are on the VA list, it's hard to get on, and so it's equally hard to get off, right? Not that they won't allow you to, but just to take that step was a bit of a leap of faith. Folks, that allowed me to become location independent. Okay, and then the third step, of course, was selling my business and moving into the role of an educator rather than I'm still doing appraisal, but it is not the same requirements as I had before. Okay, so I share this with you to share with you that my life has changed for the better over the last year. When I finally took that final step, I cannot tell you, even though it was a little bit freaky to send that email, right? It was scary to do it. The next day, I felt a complete lift of a weight off of my shoulders. Now, why do I share this with you? Well, Dustin, you're just lucky. Well, folks, first of all, luck is the culmination of preparation with circumstance, right? So prepare yourself for circumstance. For many years, I've been preparing myself for the opportunities that have come, right? Is there some luck involved there? Sure. But there's also a lot of planning. There's also a lot of strategy. You can do it too, right? Ask yourself, if you want to become location independent, what it is that you can do to get there. Now, a lot of appraisers are complaining about data collectors. I get the complaints. I understand. I've done multiple episodes on that particular subject. Okay. But I would also encourage appraisers to step back a little bit and ask yourself, does that allow an opportunity, right? If you are one that wants to be location independent, that maybe wants to spend 6 months in Idaho and 6 months in Florida, could that happen with some of the modifications and some of the changes that are happening in the appraisal world? Well, Dustin, how am I going to make a living? Well, by bringing value to your client as the appraiser, the valuation professional that you are. My encouragement to each of you is to take an opportunity to sit back and ask yourself, do you have to look at this profession the way that you always have? Is there another way to look at this profession? Now, your goal does not have to be my goal. My goal does not have to be your goal, right? You may be listening to this and say, Dustin, I have no desire to be location independent. I'm here. I love it here. I love getting out. I love doing inspections. Great. But the principle is bigger than that. The principle is find what you love to do. What is your highest and best use as an appraiser? And once you figure that out, work the system to allow your business to work for you. I can help you to do that in the All-Star team. Check us out. Going to the All-Star team at my website. It's theappraisercoach.com/memberships. theappraisercoach.com/memberships. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video if it was helpful to you here on YouTube. Thank you for being with us, everybody, and we will catch you next time. Go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.